Hi everyone, my name is Sylvia and this is my story, specifically my diabetic story. I'm 35 years old and I got diagnosed 17 years ago in 2003, sometime in June. Yeah, I keep saying I can't remember the specific date because that's the time the symptoms started showing, being manifest. So it's been a 17-year journey managing. Let me not say control. Okay, it's still controlling. I don't want to say it's fighting, but it's managing and controlling diabetes. Specifically type 1. Type 1 is an autoimmune disease where the body fights itself. So like my immune system felt like the beta cells in my pancreas were an enemy, so it invaded them, fought them, and destroyed all of them. So yeah, that's what type 1 is. It's an autoimmune condition. So I have to manage it for the rest of my life. I have to take insulin, and taking insulin is not through the mouth, it's injecting insulin. So I inject insulin 4 times a day. I have 2 types of insulins. There's one which is long acting. I take it in the morning, and then the other 3 injections are before breakfast, before lunch, and in the evening. Yeah. So my initial the initial time just after the diagnosis, I was still in high school, and it was of course a very trying time. That time we didn't have a lot of information like we do, or maybe it was there, but the fact that it was not easily accessible, and not many people knew about diabetes. Even the medics, even the nurses, when you go, we didn't have so many diabetic educators. So you just have to find the information by yourself through Google, and of course also it was not really updated, and still also with connectivity, getting the information was so hard. So the little information I had that time was just about diabetic complications of, after having diabetes for some time. You see the stories of you'll go blind, or your kidneys will fail, you'll have kidney functions, you'll have amputations. So of course, as a newly diagnosed 18-year-old, it was really scary. It was, I felt probably, my life had really taken another turn. And the funny thing is that was the same year we're going to have the national exams. So I think for me to cope, during that time I decided not to think about it. I just decided to focus on the upcoming exams and not just to think about it. I would only remember that I'm diabetic when I'm supposed to inject myself, and of course when I start getting very low blood sugars, that's when you start sweating, start being confused. That's when I would remember, I need to have taken a snack, I need to have eaten my food at this time. Yeah, so that was, the initial days were not very interesting, but with continuous support from family, a lot of reading from the medics, I was able to adjust. Probably after 2 to 3 years, I was able to take a hold of myself, take a hold of my life. That's now in early adulthood, yeah. And that's the time also I started dating. So I just started realizing this is a life issue. I need to be in control of my life. So just learning the foods that work well for me, and the amount of insulin, like if I'm going for a hike or I'm going for a meeting or I'll be in class, how much insulin I'm supposed to take or inject, and how much food I'm supposed to eat so that I don't get a low. So learning all those things, I had to realign myself, finding a new norm. Maybe this is the time everyone is learning about the new norm for when you get a diagnosis that is life-changing. You're told to get a new norm. And for me, that time, that's when I heard the word, this is your new normal. Of course, you know that it's not normal. Sometimes you can't fit in into everybody's schedule, or you can't fit in when things are not predictable. My life has to be very predictable. Yeah, so let me talk about my early 20s. That's my early adulthood with diabetes. At that time, I remember I used to really want to meet someone who has type 1. Everyone I would meet, they would be type 2. And type 2 it's totally different. Okay, we get the same symptoms, but the type of care and management is quite different. And for type 2s, many of them can manage controlling their sugars with diet, exercise, and of course taking tablets. Yeah, so that was the time I was in campus. I had really desired to meet someone who has had type 1 diabetes, and they've been able to manage well, they've lived well with no complications. Of course I didn't get. I'm not sure whether it's because of the stigma, nobody wants to disclose. Not now, but then, yeah. So I just met one guy, one person, we were friends, yeah. So again, I used to feel, I want to meet a lady. But again, that time, I mean, with connectivity, I didn't find anyone, so I concluded this must be a very special condition that there's nobody in this Kenya who has it. I'm the only one. Yeah, so the feeling of loneliness and just being alone was very heavy, because now you'd really, you know, a support group is very, very important for someone going through an issue or a unique experience, because it gives them the energy, or it makes them feel they are able to handle their situation well because they are not alone. So the feeling of being alone was not very good. It was not interesting. I remember, I know I had some very many depressive episodes, and I know I used to talk to many of my friends, because for me, disclosing that I'm diabetic has never been an issue. I've always thought if I see, probably people would understand me more when I need to eat, when I need to take a break and just measure my sugars. So I've always been telling people. So during my campus years, I generally, sometimes I usually say, it's like I glided through, because I never used to go out so much, and I used to stay at home, so I would commute. So it wasn't very, I would say, very exciting, but yeah, it still was livable and manageable. I continued managing my sugars well, eating right. After that, I was in my mid-20s, now time to get a job after graduation. Looking for a job was another tricky part, especially when you're called for an interview. You're told the interview is at 9, and then the interview takes place at 11. Of course, nobody knows that amongst you there's someone who's diabetic, there's someone whose sugars will go low, they will not be able to concentrate, or during the interview process, they'll not be able to even be able to put their heads or minds together. So people, of course, don't know. Even up to now, you just have to know how to go about it. So I would, apart from carrying the files and all that, I would make sure my bag has probably a soda or a piece of Weetabix, just a snack, so that if I see it's taking too long, I just excuse myself, take a snack, take a small snack, go to the loo, as in just do something, because you don't want to be confused during the interview. But that time also, it was a bit challenging, but I'm glad I was able to overcome it. I found a way to cope. I found a way to be able to go through what I needed to go through, still with my condition. Yeah. So of course I got a job. Officially I became a banker after 2 years of graduation. The place was quite predictable, so it was quite easy for me, with also the medical cover. So I can say I was fortunate. At least I was able to see the doctor whenever I needed to see the doctor. And though the medication was not covered, but at least I was able to buy it. So probably I would add the fact that I don't want to say that life has been so easy, but just the fact that I've been able to get good quality medical care, a very good support system. It's been quite manageable. It's been easy managing this disease. And of course, in 2012, I got married, and I was going to face another challenge, which of course I didn't know. And unless you go through life or go through these transitions, you'll only read about them, and I had read that a diabetic is not able to carry a baby to term, or even if they do, it's going to be a complicated pregnancy. So many things. So of course I was scared. I was so anxious. But the pregnancy was not problematic. But again, monitoring my sugars at time, it was really difficult. I think even at the workplace, it was a very busy time. So balancing the two was a challenge for me, but I was able to. My baby came very big, which was an indication that the sugar control was not within range. Ideally, the sugar levels are supposed to be between 3.5 to around 7. Okay, they've put it around to 6.9 or 6.5. That's a very tight control. So for me, I would be around 8, 9. Of course, that affected the baby, so he came at 4.1, my firstborn child, and he had a bit of complication at birth. The lungs were not fully developed, and the doctor told us it's because of my condition. Of course, that also made me feel, wow, so this thing is real. It was a watch in the face. Very first time I realized that this disease, it doesn't just affect me, it affects my children, my family, everybody surrounding me. It just oozes to them. Before I would think I'm okay, I'm able to manage this, I'm fine, I'm able to process, I'm able to know what to do. But how I control or manage it, I just realized it has an impact on even my children, or the children who are supposed to come. So, okay, our baby recovered. He was able, after some time, after a month, we came out of the hospital. And of course, it was another transition again from being a diabetic pregnant woman to now a diabetic nursing mother. That was another area I hadn't known about. I hadn't thought diabetes has an effect on a nursing mother too. So I used to struggle with the sugars. The sugars were always low. So finding things, I used to just eat to be able to have the least energy even to carry my baby. So it was a very challenging time. So the doctor advised that we need to stop breastfeeding after 6 months, because now I was not doing so well. So of course, after 6 months, 7 months, I recovered. I was able at least to gain back my strength after we stopped, we weaned the baby. But again, that was another reminder. Just another reminder that you cannot just say you'll be diabetic and not think about it. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday experience. It's like your very breath tells you are diabetic. So living in denial is not even a choice, as you know. It's not one of the options. It's not an option. So after the first baby, I think it was a bit traumatic for me. For my husband, we decided to take a break. Not a break, but we decided not to have another baby for some time. So we stayed on for close to 4 years before now deciding again. I think now I recovered. I was like, okay, now maybe we can try again. This experience, probably the first one, it didn't go so well. So the second one, we will try and be more careful as a family, me and my husband and the small baby. So for the second child, I was fortunate. I wasn't in a very stressful working environment. So purely my energies were on just managing the sugars. So it was a very tasking or a very complicated pregnancy. I was on bed rest the entire time. But we thank God that the baby came out fine, very fine. Although also we didn't get to 38 weeks, but he came at 37. But God's hand has been with me all along. I look back and I'm like, every incident that I go through, there's been a mighty hand on top of me. I mean, there are times that I've had a hypoglycemic episode. Hypo means the sugars go way below that you can't even be able to help yourself. You become totally confused. You need someone to help. And someone just comes from, there are people, sometimes I don't even know these people, and they just tell me, sit, what do you need? And they just get me, whether it's a soda or what. So it's God has really taken care of me. Sometimes, of course, you feel anxious even when driving. There's a time I think I drove and I was just sweating, and but my concentration was, I was able to concentrate. I know where I'm going. I know I'm supposed to overtake. But you see, the doctor says when you're driving while low, it's like driving while you're drunk. You're not able to coordinate. I remember as in all I was feeling was I'm just sweaty. It's extremely hot and all the windows were open. So when I reached where I was going, I decided to just measure my sugars and they were at 1. You know, at 1 is such a dangerous level. Of course, I'm not proud of that time. So every time I usually, before I even drive, get behind the wheel, I check my sugars. But you see, the roads are unpredictable. You can always get traffic. You can always, things happen on the road. So I ensure I have a salt on the side. But again, it's not something I love doing. Yeah, so let me talk about being diabetic as a wife. It's also another area where now you see it's different when you are under your parents' roof. Your mom can tell you, umepika chakula or we've cooked food, you need to eat vegetables. Your parents can force you to eat vegetables, or they can ask, umejidunga insulin. But you see now with your husband or with my husband, it's not that I'm not his child, so he can't. We are both grown-ups, and just like in all marriage situations or scenarios, you sit down and talk as grown-ups. So you see, he can't start telling me, yesterday ukukula mboga, jana ukukula mboga, where are your mbogas, where are your fruits. So it has really taught me that being now in charge of a home or being the home manager, it is up to me to actually know that we are eating a balanced diet, that it is up to me to know that my insulin will be over in a week if we need to make plans for this. But of course, he's been there all the way. He supports me fully. And the fact that I've been able to manage my sugars well is because I have a very, 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 very supportive husband. Of course, he married me knowing I'm diabetic. And one of the conversations we had, I had told him, I hope you know, it's documented that sometimes diabetic women don't get pregnant. So if ever that we are not able to get a child, please know that, as in I want you to have all these facts ready. Are you ready for this? And I remember he told me that already me and him are a family. And so he told me for him, he when he proposed, or when he dated me and proposed to marry me, already knew what he's getting into. And I didn't choose to be diabetic. It would be the other way around. Would it mean that I would not be ready to love him with his condition and all that? So yeah, that made me realize, wow, he's also God sent. He's like an angel in my life. So I thank God for my husband. He's been the greatest support system I have right now. Yeah, so after now the second child, of course, nursing the second child was also a very big challenge, but as I said, I was in a very flexible environment in terms of my work, So I was able to breastfeed until the 1 whole year with very low sugars, but I was able to do it very well, I thank God. Yeah, so for now, I'm thankful. My children they're not very well, as in very grown up, but my last one is 2.5. My first one will be 7 in 2 weeks' time. And it's been emotionally not so strenuous and draining. Although, of course, at this age, even any parent will tell you, of course, it's a very draining moment for parents. I mean, the children are everywhere and all that. Of course, that also is strenuous for me. But I have learned that even if I were not diabetic, it would still be the same. My children, I mean, just because I'm diabetic doesn't mean that they stop being children. They're still children. It is how I choose to be able to be around them. So they know when I need to take a snack, they know when I need to be just alone for a few minutes to re-energize, they give me that time. They have been also very supportive. Yeah, so yeah, I guess I'm done. I'm not sure. Yes, that's me. That's my story. Yeah, and it's been an interesting journey. It's not the end. You know, I usually see people, I'm in a WhatsApp group where there are many people, of course, all of us are type 1s. And sometimes you see someone very happy when they post, this is my fasting blood glucose today, and it's within the range that you want. And of course, we are told to celebrate the small milestones, and they are good. But again, what happens when the sugars are very high? So having diabetes is like walking on a very tight rope. I mean, all energies focused on just balancing the sugars, balancing. You go down, you really fall. And you stay, of course, you have to stay up. But again, you can't let the sugars go up. It may not be an emergency, a medical emergency at the moment, but of course, it's damaging the organs within you. So just finding that right balance. It's usually tough. It's not easy, but it's doable. I have done it. Not to say that it's been a walk in the park, but I have done it, and it's been great. Yeah, let me say it's been great. God's grace has been sufficient. Every season in life, I've been able to say during my teenage, my young adult, my journey as a diabetic woman, as a nursing mother, as a wife, just to show you the different transitions. These moments, these different times, they need different care, they need different management. As in, you can't say, or I can't say, I used to take care of myself when I was a teenager, is how I'll take care of myself now. My body has changed, my needs have changed, my situations around have changed. So how I give my injections, the timing, the foods I eat, all that, it has to change. So you need to be ready to be dynamic, you need to be ready to allow change to take place. You need to be ready to adjust to new situations and to new seasons. Things will never be the same. As in you can't say it's linear. Uta manage your sugars the same way today, yesterday. No, tomorrow you will be different. And then another thing is managing diabetes is not a very cheap affair. For us or for anybody to have control, you have to spend a lot. The kind of medication I'm on, those are 2 types of insulins, they are not cheap. I know the government gives free insulins or very subsidized insulins in some hospitals, but, well, they say it works for some people, but it doesn't give the best control. So after some time, especially if you're a type 1, you will have to inject yourself insulin your entire lifestyle or entire lifetime. So you need good quality insulin that will be able to manage the sugars well. So yeah, so that's my call for advocacy, that because this is a condition, a lifetime condition, if it's subsidies or subsidized medication, it should be the good quality medication, not just medication to make us live by just for today or make us just survive. Yeah. Thank you for listening. I'm happy that you are able to hear me. I hope you have been encouraged. Thank you.
96.9 FM, Pearl Radio.